Hey guys, it's Kono. Today's video is gonna be my Rebecca versus Joe's Enel. Let's check it out.
Okay guys, Rebecca. My very first deck in the One Piece trading card game since I started back in October 2023. You know, my best friend called me a madman when I picked this deck as my starter. He emphasized that she does not attack as a leader and that I would have to rely on my field to do all the work for her. I'll try not to spoil the anime, but when I got to the Dressrosa arc, it all made total sense as to why this leader does not attack. I did have the choice to start out with Katakuri, Kaido, or Law since my best friend offered to let me borrow his cards, but their abilities did not appeal to me as hers did, so I waited to build Rebecca before competing. Now of course, OP09 was right around the corner with Sakazuki, Enel, and Purple Luffy being released, but let us be reminded that back then, a lot of cards were at ridiculous prices. For example, Borsalino was at $50, Hina at $20, Great Eruption at $20, Katakuri was at $90, Queen was at $35, Gear 5 Luffy was at $40, and many other staples being at the price they were due to short prints. With that said, I bit the bullet for 6 months until the Gecko Moria leader came out for me to finally have my first attacking leader. But back to Rebecca, this leader teaches you a lot of things including Dawn management, hand management, trash management, board management, deck management, life management, counting cards, memorizing your recycled stack which also stacks your draws, getting more affiliated to how the colors black and blue work in the game, skill check, patience, late game grind, and even lethal. What was your starter when you first started this game? Go ahead and comment below, I'd love to know. Starter decks can essentially give you a preview of someone's playstyle, like myself with this leader. I like playing control decks and will absolutely find ways in every deck, including red, on how to capitalize on that. Now I do have some PTSD with Enel because back then, it was almost unkillable for Rebecca as the match was literally a 30-70 where I was depending solely on the Gear 4 Luffy King Kong gun combo. This was essentially my main win con because I didn't have any of the cards we have now as opposed to back then. Cards like Scarlet, Charlotte Pudding, Gecko, and even Gravity Blade. Plus Sakazuki and Pluffy were also running rampant, so most of my tournament matches were against those three for a few months, especially Sakazuki and Enel. Let's talk about Karate Coliseum. This was another card that attracted me to play Rebecca. This stage gives every Dressrosa character pseudo rush, allowing me to attack only into my opponent's rested characters, which is a great ability since the only other rush card for black is Rob Lucci from OP03. Another thing I really appreciate, and again, spoilers, is that with the release of Scarlet from EB01, mother, father, and daughter can finally fight together as a family. It's a shame though with how the Kyros leader turned out. But we still have hope as more support gets printed every few months. You know, with OP10 around the corner, some of those Dressrosa cards can be used in the deck. Now as you notice, this match so far has been nothing but defending on my end. This helps build my trash while trying to be able to leader skill every turn to filter through my deck. Rebecca's skill basically extends your hand from 6 to 8 with the ability to discard one of the two or even both cards from the top of the deck so that you can set up your trash even more since we do play Gecko, Rebecca Blocker, and Gear 4 Luffy in the deck. Now this card right here is one of Enel's weaknesses, as Enel likes to capitalize on hand size for defense while dropping big bodies late game. Pudding essentially disrupts that strategy by making my opponent shuffle their hand back to their deck and resetting their hand back to 5. Another fun strategy is using Gecko Moria to play Pudding from trash. Fun fact, Rebecca and Sakazuki are the only two leaders that can do this with the addition of Usopp next set. There's Kairos, aka the pseudo leader of the deck. He works very well with Scarlet, and even more so with Hina. Scarlet allows me to give a character -2 by sacrificing herself, following up with the ability to play a 3-cost or less Dressrosa character other than herself, basically allowing me to cheat out many Dressrosa cards. Since Kairos could only KO 1-cost or less cards, I had to over-minus with Hina. I would have used Rebecca to play Hina instead, but I didn't have her in hand. I didn't even have her in trash either, which means she is either stacked at the bottom of the deck or in life. One thing I learned playing against Enel is that not only are the big bodies a threat, but so are the little ones. Since Enel plays Katakuri, any one of those cards on the field can be placed in life. Take Shirahoshi for example, draw 3, trash 2, allowing him to filter their hand. Then we have Onami over there, who can KO a 5-cost or less with her trigger, but since Kairos has the ability to rest Coretta Coliseum or the leader Rebecca instead of being KO'd by effect or battle, Shirahoshi was the bigger threat. I definitely lucked out with Gravity Blade in life. You're probably wondering why I didn't use it for next turn instead. Well, I had another plan to get rid of Shirahoshi, but that trigger saved me the trouble, allowing me to value even more with what I had planned. You guys remember when I spoke of using Gecko to play Pudding from trash? Well, here's the play. I also wanted to swing with Kairos before playing Gecko, but Joe would have probably countered out, making the Gecko Pudding play return 6 instead of 7 back to the deck. Again, the job of Pudding is to disrupt the hand as much as possible. Of course this is a double-edged sword though, as I could possibly be fixing his hand rather than hurting it. Playing Rebecca, you're constantly setting up plays in hand, field, and trash. Every move is crucial because if you make the wrong calculation, you're at the mercy of RNG, which can disrupt what you're doing. This is also why I mentioned that this deck teaches you patience and a sense of awareness to constantly count your cards. Joe finally taking out his first big body since being on Dawn 10 for a couple of turns. Since this is his first big body, you can imagine the setup I have in my hand to get rid of Katakuri. Another thing is that I also have someone on the field that helps set up as well. Joe forgot that he could swing into her with Shirahoshi or Flampe, so by leaving Scarlet on the field, this saved me the trouble from using cost reduction from my hand. One of the most satisfying moves is being able to reduce costs with black and then bottom deck with blue. Now what I'm doing here is trying to make sure he stays at 1 life just in case he has another healer in hand. Another plus side to this is getting cards out of the hand in case your opponent is trying to go back to 2 life next turn. You always have to keep leader ability in mind, but also keep in mind how many more cards you have in deck, so you don't deck out. You see what I mean having another healer in hand? Instead of being at 2, Joe's at 1. Here I was contemplating on using Gecko or Gear 4 Luffy with King Kong Gun. The only problem is that Rebecca was still not in trash, which is why you see us pointing at my life and deck. But to tell you the truth, I needed bodies on the field because one Kyros alone will only help Joe filter his life some more. You also gotta remember about Kyros' mandatory trash 1 card from the top of deck. It was Rebecca, but not the Rebecca I was looking for. And now we're back to 2 life, making it harder to beat Joe. There she is. About time. You know, Patchwork is a very underrated card since Ice Age and Tempest kick her out. Don't get me wrong, I did have those cards in this deck, but all I ever did was trash them with the leader ability, rendering them useless. At least with Patchwork, you can fetch it with the leader ability since it is a Dressrosa card. Now I really love this ability. You'd essentially have to attempt to KO Kyros 2 times before his protection's gone, and that's without having a blocker. Here we finally have Gear 4 Luffy out, one of the few cards that can attack active characters. With the Coliseum out, he can swing into Yamato. Combine that combo with King Kong Gun, I can essentially attack Yamato twice for 13k just in case Joe tries to protect her. One way of protecting Luffy from being swung into is to use his second ability, which is the bottom deck 7 cards from trash to make him active again. If I did attack twice this turn using this ability, Luffy would not be able to refresh the next turn unless I activate his main to bottom deck 7 cards again. This also helps with the start of my stack, as Rebecca is able to recycle the whole deck, ensuring that your next draw is once you hit that stack, if you get to it and remember what it is so you're not blindly drawing. Notice I'm not attacking with Gecko, or I haven't been for the past couple turns, as it would be a useless swing helping Joe filter, leaving Gecko vulnerable to an ace swing or 15k swing from leader if desperate measures are needed. Playing out Kuzan tells me 2 things. He has no more top end, or he has Raigo in hand getting rid of Kyros with Kuzan and using Raigo on Gecko or Luffy. Once he played Lucy, I knew that this was the perfect time to go for lethal. The only things that could stop me now are the zero cost event or Beiji in life. Right when Joe said no trigger, I definitely went for the 16k swing with Gecko Moria. Even if he did counter out that swing, I still had Kyros right behind him just in case. With the suspense finally over, Joe had only enough to counter out a 12k swing. GG's again, man. Hey guys, welcome to my Rebecca deck profile. She's gone through so much editing that this was the build I was most comfortable with. First off, we have the Rebecca Searcher. Although she cannot fetch for herself or the blocker, she can definitely fetch for other Dressrosa cards, also setting up trash with other cards later on. Next we have Melancholic. With her ability to bring back a 3 to 5 black card from trash to hand, one of the best combos for her are to bring back Rebecca, who can grab Sabo from trash afterwards, creating an annoying wall combo. A 1-of Helmeppo. You're going to see a few 1-of cards as this deck filters through so much that you're able to see almost all of them. Helmeppo is mainly there for the Gecko combo, but he can also be used for smaller combos as well. One-Legged Soldier is one of the deck's 2k counters. Its activate main to -3 is very helpful with little combos and bigger combos later on in game. Next is Scarlet. She can cheat out any 3 cost or less Dressrosa card from your hand while minusing 2 costs from your opponent's character, opening up a wide new variety of combos since her debut in EB01. Bartolomeo is the other 2k counter in the deck. Unlike Toad-Legged Soldier, this card can be fetched by Rebecca from the trash, keeping a consistent 2k counter in your hand at all times. Not to mention he's a blocker as well. Kyros is the pseudo-leader of the deck since the leader cannot attack. On play, he can KO a 1 cost or less while trashing the top card of the deck. His other ability is that if he would be KO'd, you may rest the Karate Coliseum stage or the leader, making it hard to remove him from the field. I'm not gonna lie, Brook is a staple in any black deck. I have him at 1 since I can recycle him a lot and use him in combos with Rebecca. Another 1-of. Hina minuses 4 cost to my opponent's character and can be used in a lot of combos with Rebecca, Gecko, Kyros, Brook, and even Gravity Blade. One of the best blockers out there. Especially in this deck, Rebecca can grab any 3 to 7 cost black card from trash, then play any 3 cost or less from hand rested. One Charlotte Pudding. As you saw earlier, I was able to bring her out a second time with Gecko Moria. She's really good to play against decks that have a huge hand all the time like Enel or even Vivi. A lot of people forget that Sabo is a Dressrosa card. He has so many great uses. protecting the field from KO effects, draw 2 trash through the filter, being a blocker alongside Rebecca, or even as an attacker swinging 6k. Next we have Gear 4 Luffy. With his ability to attack active characters with a combination of Karate Coliseum and King Kong Gun, you can attempt to clear the field of top end characters, or attack the opponent's leader the following turn using King Kong Gun for 13k double attack, if the requirements are met. Gekko Moria, another staple in almost any black deck. His ability lets you grab any 4 cost or less and 2 cost or less from the trash onto the field, granting you a lot of combos in this deck. One of my favorites is Patchwork, Gekko, Rebecca, Scarlet, Hina, Kyros, allowing you to KO a 10 drop character while filling board. Three Karate Coliseum. This stage is what keeps Kyros alive longer and allows all of my Dressrosa to swing as though they had Rush. This especially allows Luffy to swing into active characters the turn he was played. Patchwork minuses 3 costs to one of my opponent's characters. Also, another ability people sleep on is that when there is a 0 cost character on board, you can freeze them so they do not refresh on their next refresh step. A rare effect to use, but still an option. Plus, its trigger to draw 2 trash 1 is amazing. Gum Gum King Kong Gun. This card gives any Dressrosa character plus 6,000 attack, meaning, yes, even the Rebecca blocker is a threat. One of the few Dressrosa cards that requires 15 cards in trash to give someone double attack. Its trigger is also like Shirahoshi's trigger, drawing 3, trashing 2 from hand. Last but not least, Gravity Blade. With a combination of cost reduction cards, I could potentially bottom deck 2 10 costs off the field. And that is my deck profile. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time.